Hello and welcome to the Northwest Treatment Vidcast.
Hello, everybody. Today we have a special guest from OCBH. We have Heather Jefferis with us.
Welcome.
Hey, thanks.
We appreciate you coming on as our inaugural interviewee.
I love it. I'm happy to be the first one. So exciting.
Well, we wanted to kind of just jump in. How would you describe either your background or career and what brought you here?
Oh, sure. So many years ago, I decided to go to graduate school for clinical art therapy. So I was a clinical art therapist for many years. And then I also had my substance use disorder certification through the Native American Board. And so I did that work directly with individuals for the first part of my career, both families and youth. And so I worked kind of across a variety of settings. I worked in youth programs, I worked in treatment court programs, I worked in county-based clinics and nonprofits kind of all over the state of Oregon. And then I grew up here, went to school here, been here my whole career, about 25 years now. And then about midway through that, I had always gotten kind of pushed into developing programs, doing kind of outreach programs with other partners. One of the programs I developed was a mental health program for a child abuse center. I don't know how familiar people are with that, but always a lot of multidisciplinary, multi-system kind of work and working with people that were involved in multiple systems. And so that really is kind of my passion area. And doing that work, I ended up being a part of a lot of different associations that included like the National Association of Drug Court Professionals, the state associations, and lots of training. And after being a CEO for an outpatient program and all the struggles that we have in our sector, trying to deliver quality, accessible care that is so needed in our state, I saw this position at Oregon Council, which it wasn't called that at that time. It was a smaller association, to do a reorg and to really create a fully functional association to lift the voice of providers across the state to try and get some change for our sector so that we could really do more to serve more Oregonians and create a more open system, especially for specialty care and people who have particular barriers, Black and Brown communities, and folks who live in poverty and are affected by multiple systems. So it's really important work to me, and I'm just ecstatic to be part of an association where I get to support people's mission and services and the amazing people who work in our field. So I feel so lucky to have my job. I love it.
And I want to really quickly interject. When you're talking about systems, for those of you who are outside the field, when we're talking about systems, we're talking about people that are like either within the mental health system or their addiction system, or they're using some kind of state-sponsored programs or any of those things. So when Heather's talking about multidisciplinary system teams, we're pulling in from all those different areas, and we're having teams that are not just therapists. We're having teams that are doctors, therapists, DHS workers. A lot of times are also part of those teams.
Sometimes Congress people, litigators, like
all officers. Yeah. It's a complex world out there. Yeah, and that's one of the fun things I think about working in substance use disorder and mental health services is you really get to engage with the whole community, the private business, the government partners, the hospitals. I mean, it never gets boring. That's for sure.
Isn't that the truth?
So with your current work with the Oregon Behavioral Council of Health with OCBH, roughly how big would you say OCBH is now?
Well, we have about 45 members across the state. So what that means is that we have folks who are agencies, whether they're small, like 5 employees, all the way to 1,000 employees. And to be a member, what that means is that they have to provide substance use disorder treatment and or mental health treatment. Some of them do both. Some of them do more one, more the other. And they also have to be eligible to bill the Oregon Health Plan along with commercial insurance. So all of our members, which a lot of people don't realize, is that treatment agencies across the state of Oregon see both commercial insurance and people on the Oregon Health Plan. So
Right.
it's not like there's an exclusion of one or the other. People sometimes think that those kinds of treatment services are very separate, but they're not.
Right. Different funding, different kind of offerings. That makes sense.
Yep. But that's who belongs to our memberships. And we have members across the whole state, all the way from the Portland Metro to Ashland, and all the way from Newport to Baker City and Enterprise, Oregon on the east side. So, and all down the Central Valley and the Bend area.
That's great.
So within your profession, what effects have you seen mental health and substance use have?
You know, it was when you guys asked that question, I was like, wow, that's a big question. And what I have really seen working in the field is not only the part that I think brings so many of us who work in the field to the field, especially those of us who came through the clinical doorway, is the reward of seeing people be successful and changing their lives and being healthier and happier, having more capacity to share of themselves and bring more of themselves into their communities, which makes our communities richer and kinder and healthier, right? That's the no-brainer part of the work for sure. But the part that is not always expected is that doing this work and explaining it and working with partners also changes systems and helps people to think more about health and wellness versus, I think, for many, many years, so much stigma around mental health and substance use disorder, and the criminalization and people having to be put into really multi-system institutional kinds of settings.
Yeah.
That by sharing this philosophy of our work from a health perspective, we've really been able to slowly make incremental change in the state of Oregon. It's more about health and caring and kindness and less stigma. And there has been, you know, we have tons of work to go. So much work to do, but we really have come a long way in the 25 years that I've been in the field for sure. You know, it's been something very intriguing to watch that we really have broad cultural change across the state, frequently coming right from our local behavioral health initiatives and workforce.
What do you think has been the biggest change you've seen in the field in the last 25? Because like I've been in the field for about 10 years and I definitely know there's been a big shift from when I first started off to where I am now. And I'm wondering what is the biggest shift you've seen in addiction field?
I think the biggest shifts really have been, and again, we have a long way to go. There's always quality improvement, right? But I think that the attention paid to cultural competency and inclusion of Black and Brown communities, of LGBTQ, really understanding the barriers of people who are at high risk with intergenerational trauma and poverty. Oregon has really been a leader for those things, along with trauma-informed care initiatives, understanding the impacts of trauma in a family setting where it gets passed on and ingrained from childhood, from generation to generation. And really trying to do a much better job incrementally over time with racial diversity and specific cultural programming, which compared to many other fields, I think again, we have a long ways to go. But with the resources that we have at hand to implement those things, I think our field tends to be a very early adopter. And I think Oregon has done a pretty nice job with really limited resources to try and shift the dial on that. In the last 25 years. I would say it's very different from when I first started the field. Like there was a lot of I feel like when I started in the field 25 years ago, there was a lot of aspirations,
right?
Not a lot of action. And I feel like we got farther down the action road in that time, much slower than any of us would like. But again, with the limited resources, because that's the other thing I've seen, sadly, as I've seen the resources for our field vastly diminished over that time, which is tragic. Because we have all these innovations that everybody's trying to implement to make everything better, that our resources have just been progressively cut and cut and cut, particularly when you compare it to the population growth in the state. So it's like a bizarre situation. We have really good stuff happening, but not a lot of sustainability.
Yeah, Oregon definitely struggles with some gnarly statistics when it comes to addiction issues and mental health issues. And we have a very diverse group of people actually in Oregon, rural and, urban and various places they come to. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a paradox that we have all this innovation, but we just don't put the effort in at the leadership level of the state um, to really sustain it and keep it moving in the right direction. So it's a very slow, kind of herky-jerky process.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, especially when you're talking about having to change laws, even when you know what should happen, it's not easy to get it to actually implement.
No. So that's another reason I'm so excited to be part of the association, because we do a huge piece of that. I don't know, what do you call it? Marketing, advocacy, and lobbying
Right.
to really bring awareness to try to make that change happen a little bit faster.
Right. No, that's great. So what would you say, are there like 3 main things that you would like to make sure from your perspective that we can share to our audience?
Oh, 3 main things. I think, that treatment works. Health and wellness bring more kindness and compassion, not only to individuals, but to our entire system, from the governor's office all the way down to everybody who's just making a living every day here in each community. I think that our system has a much bigger impact than we sometimes think it does, and that we have huge impact on individuals and communities across the state to be healthier and kinder and better together. Yeah.
That's great.
And so to end all of our interviews, we ask everyone the following Proust questions. And the first one is, where else would you live?
That's hard. I've traveled a bit across the United States and a little bit outside of the US. And I really love Oregon. I love the temperature here. I like the seasons. I'm not sure I would live anywhere else, though I do have to say I went to Denmark, and that was pretty cool. Kind of similar temperature, so that might be a contender.
If you were not having your current career, what else would you want to do?
Oh, well, I was a clinical art therapist, so you probably heard the art part. So when I retire someday, I will probably just go back to doing art. I do painting and metal sculpture. So I miss not having as much time to do my art. So.
Yeah.
What is your favorite word?
Well, lately I've been saying amazing. It gets me pumped up.
Always good.
I gotta be motivated. That's amazing.
I like that.
What about your least favorite word?
Oh. My least favorite word is complicated. I hear that's complicated in my job all the time. I'm like, really, it's not that complicated.
It's code. Anytime you hear the word complicated, it's code for I don't want to go into it.
Yeah, I'm tired of that word. Not that hard.
And what makes you happy? Like, what brings joy to your heart?
I really like seeing people blossom. That makes me happy. So whether it's people I work with, I like to see people being excited, and I also love flowers. I don't know what it is about flowers. I don't like them chopped off in a bouquet. I like them on their plant. But those 2 things, when I see somebody really reveling in their own power, that's really exciting to me. And I also like looking at flowers blossoming on both sides.
I like that.
That sounds kind of corny.
In a good way. And what would you say makes you miserable?
Complicated. It does. I hate that.
Understandable.
Mhm.
Well, we're definitely going to make sure that we have links for Heather's contact information and the contact info for the OCBH as well in our description below. If you have any questions or want to follow up with Heather, please feel free to leave a comment and we'll make sure that she can get a hold of them.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it's been a pleasure, and I'm so happy to be your first interviewee. Hopefully it goes well and people like it. We'll see.
Well, thank you so much, Heather. And with that, we wish you all to be well and to be healthy.
See you guys later.